The 10-gallon Crafco Mini Melter is a hand-agitated 10-gallon capacity sealant melter applicator designed for small crack sealing tasks. Properly used, it effectively and efficiently executes crack sealing tasks. In this operating instruction video, we will go over safety, the startup procedure, sealant loading, heat settings, and sealant application, as well as the shutdown procedure. Before operating the mini melter, read the operator instructions. Failure to do so could result in injury. As with any other equipment, it is important to exercise proper safety practices. When operating the mini melter, always wear eye protection and wear a long-sleeve shirt. Never ignite the propane torch when it is inserted in the heat chamber, and never insert the torch into an empty melter. Do not operate the melter within 6 feet of any combustible material. To avoid flashing of the melted material, never allow the sealant to exceed 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Always have a Class B fire extinguisher available in case flashing occurs. If flashing does occur, close the melter lid and extinguish it with the fire extinguisher. Never use water. You are working with very hot equipment and sealant. Treat them with respect and never allow children near the operation. The following are the key components to the mini melter: the propane bottle and the bottle pressure valve, the hand torch valve, the shoe handle and locking chain, the sealant application valve operation handle, the sealant temperature gauge, the heat box inlet, the loading lid, and finally the sealant agitation handle. Sealant is packaged in cardboard boxes. Remove the sealant block from the carton. You will notice the sealant block is wrapped in plastic. Place the plastic-wrapped block into the mini melter. The plastic will melt along with the sealant. It is advisable that you use a flattened cardboard sealant box and place it under the application valve while the sealant melts. This will collect any sealant that may drip through the application valve and prevent a sealant puddle on the pavement during the heat-up process. The mini melter is heated using a propane torch. To begin, check all propane lines and see they are tight. Open the propane bottle tank valve and set the pressure to 8 to 12 psi. Now remove the propane torch from the unit, point it in a safe direction, and open the valve on the propane torch handle. Using the supplied striker, ignite the propane at the end of the torch. Once the torch has been lit, adjust the valve to acquire a strong flame. Insert the lit torch just short of entering the heating chamber. If the torch enters into the chamber, the torch will be extinguished. Therefore, keep about 1/2 inch between the torch end and the heating chamber. If the torch is extinguished, allow the heating chamber to vent before inserting the reignited torch. The sealant will begin to melt within approximately 10 minutes. Use the manual agitator to assist in the melting of the sealant and to keep it from burning. Agitate 5 strokes every 2 to 3 minutes. Once the sealant block begins to melt, another block can be added. Do not melt any more than you intend to use per sealing session. Once the sealant has reached the manufacturer's recommended temperature, you can begin to apply the sealant. It is important to note that the sealant should be kept within the recommended temperatures. Failure to do so can lead to sealant adhesion failure. Sealant application is quite easy. Simply push the mini melter to the crack and center the application shoe over the crack. Pull back on the shoe handle and unlock the locking chain to lower the shoe over the crack. Now pull back on the sealant valve handle to open the sealant valve. Once the material begins to flow, move the melter along the crack. Moving ahead too fast will not allow enough sealant to enter the crack. Moving too slow will cause the sealant to overflow the shoe. Try to keep the shoe about half full. If you are filling cracks that are over 1 inch deep, you might consider filling the crack 2 times, as the sealant will contract about 10% after it cools. If you pull the sealant valve handle back and no sealant comes out of the valve at the application shoe, and all the sealant is liquid in the melter, the valve may need to be heated to melt any sealant that may have set up in the valve. To do so, remove the torch from the heating box and heat the valve. This will melt any sealant that has set up, and the sealant flow should begin. When moving from crack to crack, raise the shoe and lock it in the up position with the locking chain. Continue to allow the torch to burn while adjusting the flame to maintain optimal sealant temperature. Add sealant as needed. Use the sealant agitation handle frequently to increase the melt rate and to keep any unmelted portion of the plastic bag away from the material spout. If any material does obstruct the spout, it can be cleaned out, but this is only to be performed when the melter has cooled. To do this, follow the instructions in the Mini Melter Manual and follow all safety precautions. It is also important to note that during operation, all the burner box vent holes must be kept clear of obstructions. Failure to do so will affect burner operation. To shut down the mini melter after the day's operation, remove the torch from the heat chamber and close the torch valve. Then close the propane bottle valve. It is recommended to drain the mini melter of all unused sealant, as reheating will affect sealant performance. Store the melter in a covered area, or cover the mini melter to prevent any water from entering the material tank, and always make sure the melter has properly cooled before covering.